Welcome to today's video, where we dive into a powerful story of love, betrayal, and the consequences of revenge. Join us as we follow the lives of two women, Grace and Sam, who, after discovering the ultimate betrayals from those closest to them, embark on a journey that will change their lives forever. Their paths to vengeance will test their strength, their hearts, and ultimately their souls. Get ready for a gripping emotional ride filled with twists, heartbreak, and unforgettable moments. Let's get started. The first time Grace laid eyes on Ethan, they were in high school. She remembered the exact moment as if it was yesterday. Ethan sitting in the back of the classroom, his bright eyes glinting with curiosity, his smile making her heart flutter. They had quickly become inseparable, sharing everything from childhood secrets to future dreams. Ethan was the love of her life, and she was certain he felt the same. Together, they dreamed of a future in Oakwood, of growing old in the town they had always known, building a life around each other's ambitions and hopes. There was no reason to think otherwise. After high school, the distance between them began to grow. Ethan, despite his promise to return to Oakwood, moved to New York to attend law school. Grace stayed behind, teaching at Oakwood High, surrounded by familiar faces but increasingly lonely. She tried to keep in touch with Ethan, but his calls became less frequent, his letters more strained. When he returned home for the holidays, they would pick up right where they left off, as though nothing had changed. But Grace could feel the distance, the weight of his ambition pulling him away from her. The final blow came when Ethan's career took off. He was consumed by the high-powered world of corporate law, leaving Grace behind in Oakwood. She still held on, waiting for the man she knew and loved to come back to her. But as the months turned into years, Grace realized the man she had once known was slipping further away, replaced by someone she didn't recognize. Then one night, everything fell apart. Grace had arranged for a quiet dinner with Jenna, hoping to reconnect after the busy holiday season. She was looking forward to unwinding, talking about life, and sharing her frustrations about Ethan. She never expected to walk in on the scene that greeted her. She had expected to see her best friend sitting on the couch, perhaps flipping through a magazine or talking about her day. What she saw instead was Ethan, her Ethan, wrapped in Jenna's arms on the living room floor. The shock hit her like a physical blow, her heart stopping as she stood frozen in the doorway, unable to move. "Grace, please." Ethan's voice broke the silence, but it only made the pain worse. His face was flushed, and his eyes were wide with fear, as though she was the one who had wronged him. Jenna, equally stunned, scrambled to sit up, her face pale with shame. Grace's mind couldn't process it all at once. It was as though time had stopped, her heart pounded in her ears, her breath shallow. She turned on her heel and fled, ignoring their calls. The cool air outside didn't help. It only made her feel more isolated. How could they do this to her? Ethan, the man who promised to love her forever, and Jenna, the friend who knew everything about her. The betrayal cut deeper than anything Grace had ever known. Over the following days, Grace felt as though she were drowning. Ethan's calls flooded her phone, each one pleading for forgiveness, offering excuses. "I was confused," he said. "Jenna didn't mean anything. You're the one I want." But Grace could hardly hear him anymore. She was numb, struggling to hold herself together. At first, she thought she could forgive them, that maybe this was a mistake. But the longer she sat with the pain, the angrier she became. She couldn't allow them to walk away without feeling the consequences of their actions. They had shattered her, and now she would make them feel the weight of that betrayal. Grace began to take action. She knew Ethan's business partner, Blake Cooper, had been vying for a major promotion that Ethan had been promised. Over the years, Grace had observed Blake's ambition, his thirst for power. It didn't take long for her to reach out to him, under the pretense of helping him with a small charity event. They met at a local coffee shop, and during their conversation, Grace slowly fed Blake information. She knew about Ethan's deals, the ones that seemed too good to be true. She dropped just enough hints about Ethan's ethical lapses, his shady business practices that Blake had never fully grasped. Blake, always quick to jump at opportunities, bit the bait. Within weeks, Blake had uncovered damning evidence against Ethan, a series of illegal activities hidden behind layers of legal jargon. Blake used this information to blackmail Ethan into signing over the partnership to him, completely cutting Ethan out of the deal. Ethan's once promising career crumbled almost overnight. His reputation was tarnished, and his connections in the corporate world disappeared. The law firm he worked for fired him, and all his efforts for success were erased. Jenna, who had tried to stand by him, was caught in the fallout as well. The scandal became public, and her own career took a hit. She lost clients and credibility, and her reputation in Oakwood was forever tainted. Grace watched it all unfold from a distance, her satisfaction growing with each new piece of Ethan's downfall. She had done it. She had made them pay. But despite the sense of triumph, there was something else inside her, something darker. As she watched Ethan, once full of pride and confidence, crumble to nothing, she began to question her own motivations. Had revenge really healed her wounds, or had it simply left her with a different kind of emptiness? Weeks later, as she stood in front of her classroom, Grace realized the truth. The anger and betrayal had consumed her, and though she had watched Ethan fall, she had failed to see the toll it had taken on her own soul. The person who had hurt her most was herself, for allowing the bitterness to define her. Sam Lee had always been a woman of passion. She loved her work. Cooking was her life. Her restaurant, the Tidal Fork, had become a staple in Sunfield, praised for its fresh ingredients and bold flavors. She had poured every ounce of energy into it, creating a place that felt like home for anyone who walked through the door. But when it came to her personal life, it had always been about her and Daniel. They were a perfect match. At least, that's what Sam had always thought. Daniel was everything Sam had ever wanted. He was successful, charming, and he made her feel like the center of the universe. Their engagement had felt like the culmination of a dream she'd had since childhood. They talked about the future, their plans to travel the world, to settle down in a house overlooking the ocean. Everything was perfect. But as time went on, cracks began to form in their relationship. Daniel's job had become all-consuming, and Sam noticed him pulling away. The late-night meetings, the phone calls he would take in another room, the lies about why he couldn't make it home for dinner, it all started to add up. And then there was Lila. Lila had always been there for Sam. The two women had shared everything since childhood, from secrets to dreams to heartbreaks. But lately, there had been an unspoken tension between Lila and Daniel. Sam noticed it in the way Lila's eyes lingered on him, the way she seemed more nervous around him than usual. She brushed it off, assuming she was just being paranoid. That changed one evening when Sam decided to surprise Daniel and Lila after a busy day at the restaurant. She called Lila to check in, but when there was no answer, she assumed they were out together. She decided to visit Lila's apartment, figuring it would be a relaxing evening with both of them. As soon as Sam entered, she saw them, Lila and Daniel, locked in a passionate kiss on the couch. The room seemed to freeze, and Sam's heart stopped. For a moment, she couldn't breathe, her thoughts tangled in disbelief. Daniel pulled away, his face turning pale as he realized who was standing in the doorway. Sam, I never meant for this to happen, Lila stammered, her face flushed with guilt. I love you, but I'm so sorry. This shouldn't have happened. But it was too late. The hurt was overwhelming, and Sam's world came crashing down around her. Daniel's excuses seemed hollow, his apologies insincere. I didn't want to hurt you, he said, but Sam couldn't hear him anymore. The betrayal was too raw, too painful. The days that followed were a blur of anger, pain, and disbelief. Sam couldn't focus on anything, her mind constantly replaying the scene over and over again. How long had this been going on, she wondered? Had they been lying to me for months? Years? But the pain of betrayal soon morphed into something else, something darker, something far more dangerous. Sam didn't want to forgive them. No, she wanted them to feel the same devastation she felt. She wanted revenge. Sam knew Daniel's image was everything to him. His reputation, the way people saw him as successful, capable, a man with a perfect life. He relied on that. He had worked tirelessly to climb the corporate ladder in finance, always striving to prove himself. But she could tear that all down, piece by piece. Using her knowledge of Daniel's business dealings and contacts, she began to plant small seeds of doubt. She reached out to mutual friends, casually mentioning things about Daniel's behavior, insinuating that his loyalty could be questionable. She spread rumors, dropping hints about his lack of integrity. Then, she leaked details of his personal life to one of his colleagues, creating a scandal that Daniel couldn't control. His relationships, his career, everything was exposed for what it really was. He was no longer the man everyone thought he was. But Sam's revenge didn't stop there. She knew that Lila, who had been an unspoken part of the betrayal, had to be punished too. She subtly manipulated situations, ensuring that Lila's friends turned on her, that people whispered behind her back. Lila's once friendly persona turned to one of isolation, and in the end, she walked away from Sam, knowing she could never repair the damage. As the months passed, Sam began to rebuild her life, pouring her energy back into her restaurant and herself. She knew the damage had been done, but in the silence that followed, she realized something. Revenge had cost her more than she ever thought it would. The satisfaction was fleeting, and the emptiness that followed lingered. In the end, it wasn't the vengeance that healed her wounds. It was time. Time and the strength to move on from the ashes of love and betrayal. Thank you for joining us on this emotional journey through love, betrayal, and revenge. We hope you enjoyed the ride and that it left you thinking about the choices we make and the consequences they bring. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. We've got more gripping stories coming your way. Stay tuned, and until next time, take care.